Hello, everyone out there in podcast land. Welcome to another episode of the Get Happy Podcast with moi, your host, Rudrani Devi. And today, oh my goddess, I am so excited to have the amazing Sarah Watt with me. And the crowd goes wild. Yes, I did still steal that from Simone Milasas, but every time she does it, I laugh my ass off. And if you guys don't know who Simone Milasas is, you should really check her out as well, because we both love and adore her. And
we do.
Sarah Watt, oh my goddess, thank you so much for agreeing to do this with me on the Get Happy podcast. How you be?
I'd be awesome, my friend. Good morning, everyone from Australia. It's 10 a.m. here, and this is my time of the day. It's like the sun's up. It's another beautiful day in paradise. So thank you for inviting me, and I'm so happy to be here.
Oh, well, I'm thrilled to have you here. And it's 7 p.m. in Nashville, Tennessee, where I reside. That's not when I get it on. I'm usually up at like 5 a.m, which is usually when you also get up.
Yes, you're very Australian, basically, Rudrani. You're being very Australian.
I will be totally honest with you. I took a class in Australia back when we could be out in the world, the December before the shutdown, because for those of you watching, now and in the future, we're in COVID times. It's actually the 24th of May, 2021. But this was in 2019, December, and I took a class with Christopher Hughes, Relationship Done Different. And I was like, oh my goddess. I got there 3 days early and I stayed 4 days later so I could hang on the beach. There were a lot of fires and stuff going on in some places, but where I was amazing. And I was like, man, I could totally fucking live here. Yep. This is so incredible. The wildlife, all the things. How did you get so lucky? I mean, I saw some amazing creatures besides you.
Besides the people, because it's one of those countries as well, and especially if you were in and around maybe the Noosa on the Sunshine Coast area, beautiful people, like the bodies, you're just looking around at all of these stunningly beautiful people as well. So
I know, it's like, what did I step into an alternate universe of like God?
It's like a movie scene. You go to the supermarket and the women are dressed as like they've just been out for dinner. It's very cool. It's very
Come to Nashville, it's a little different, and even before COVID, people were kind of in love with their sweatpants. I don't know. Not me. I mean, I might be more workout clothes because I know we both love to work out. So if I'm working out, a lot of times I would go to work out and then I would go to the store, and so I got my. But I'm stylized.
I'm sure you still looked great though. Exactly. I'm sure you still rocked that outfit. Like
I have like 30 pairs of sneakers, right? Or kicks free, whatever, that go with my outfit, and the little jackets, and I'm color coordinated, and I'm gonna have the earrings at work. I won't wear them because I'm gonna be lifting,
Exactly. You gotta look good. You gotta sweat and look good. It's like, come on.
Girl. And I enjoy that. And
good.
So, that's enough about me. I want people to know about you. Can you please tell our podcast listeners and our YouTube peeps that will see us now and in the future a little bit about who you are, what you do, the things?
Yeah. So I guess people ask me this a lot. Like, what do you do for work? What do you do for a living, Sarah? And I'm like, well, that's an interesting question. But I guess the first response that's very easy is I'm one of the worldwide coordinators for live translation for Access Consciousness. So a very long and, auspicious title, but basically myself and my amazing co-creator, Soren Lassen, coordinate all of the translation of Access classes and telecalls. So Access Consciousness is this brilliant, amazing modality. I'm sure if you've followed Rudrani for any period of time, you would know a little bit about it or a lot about it. And basically we translate, we're in 180 countries now, I think. So we translate what our...
It's 189.
Oh my God.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It's 100.
No. It's very exciting. And it always changes. Like, that's what I mean. It's one of those companies. It's one of these things that's just growing and changing all of the time. So, I mean, when Gary's the founder of Access, Dane's the co-creator, Simone Milasas and Brandon Watt also facilitate Access classes, along with, hundreds of other facilitators around the world. But yeah, so basically they facilitate in English. We translate into up to about 20 languages, depending on the class or the call that we're having. And I coordinate a lot of that. And I do a lot of other stuff too. I work very closely with both Simone Milasas and Brennan Watt on the creation of their businesses. I have my own facilitation business. So basically I heard someone, maybe Simone, say you're a master of all trades and a jack of none. And I like to think of myself a bit like that. Ask me to do something and probably more likely than not, I can do it for you. So
Funny. And I don't know, she's pretty on it. So perhaps that's true for you. I mean, I've seen you at, I can't tell you, you guys, back when we could be in the world, I have seen this remarkable lady at so many in-person situations where she is sitting with headphones on and doing the cameras and then there's all these booths literally behind us. I'm pointing behind me like you're going to see something. I can remember so many of these classes we would go to. There's these little booths with all these translators. And it's so freaking amazing because the most languages I've ever had translated when I've done a class has been 5. And I think, wow, that's so amazing. But I'm talking about 20 booths or more, literally. You're coordinating that. Oh my goddess, you juggling quite a bit there. And how do you do that? I mean, I'm sure you're an X-Men woman of magnitude. How did you find yourself doing that for Access? Was it just something that you had already been kind of dabbling in, or you got thrown in?
No, not. It's so funny because I tell people I do that and they're like, oh, so how many languages do you speak? And I'm like, well, I'm pretty good at English. You know, I'm Australian, so we have our own version of English. I mean, I can manage English, 90% of the time, I suppose, but I actually am not bilingual at all. I speak no other languages apart from English. I'm the first person in this role that doesn't speak at least one other language. It's so funny, growing up and the different jobs and roles I found myself in before I ever found Access. I was always just very intrigued and curious about, growing up in Australia, we're a very multicultural country, but you really have to go to the cities in Australia to see multiculturalism. Where I grew up on the Sunshine Coast, it was a very coastal town. I don't even know if we had many kids at my school that were there that weren't like Caucasian Australian. So, but I always just had this fascination with how language and culture intermingled with each other. So I started with Access and was doing a bunch, again, like the whole master of all trades, jack of none thing. I was just saying yes to everything. And I started on the payments team, and then I went to this team and to that team. And then I did a bit of an internship and learning about the translation. So I went and worked on some classes and did some stuff, and then just fell in love with it. It was just like, this is my jam. And in Australia, not many people really wanted to touch, like, it's kind of a bit of a funny thing when you don't speak other languages and you come from a country like Australia, because people are still like, doesn't everyone speak English? Like, it's a little bit, even though obviously we know they don't. So I was like, give it to me, I'll do it. And started doing some stuff with languages here, and then just kept saying yes, Rudhrani. Honestly, my life has been created through that one word. Just when people ask me to do something, I say yes. And if I don't know how to do it, I will figure it out and have it done for you. I'll ask questions, I'll find the way. And with translation, it was very much that journey of discovery and saying yes to everything, and teaching myself and asking brilliant people that I work with a lot of questions. And I wake up every day and I ask for more. And, saying what you said about how much I juggle in my role, I'm so lucky to have had Simone Milasas so close to me in my life. And really the tools of Access Consciousness is what number one keeps me sane and happy and also gives me space of but it's also this space of like, you're never satisfied. And I always thought growing up, you had to find a space of satisfaction in this world, like whatever that was, get married, have kids, find the dream job, like whatever it was, to have that bubble of satisfaction. I was like, oh, well, that's the aim in life, right? And then you find Access and you stop.
Yeah, this society tells us that's what we're supposed to do. So we're like, well, I want to fit into this reality, this society, so that's how I'm supposed to do things.
Yeah.
How did you break out of that?
Well, access, really. And I know, like, it's really the one thing I found in this world that matched, because, you know, you come into this world and at a young age, I knew there was possibilities. I knew everything was possible when I was young. And then it's that thing where you're just looking at everyone around you and you're like, really? Like, who am I in this world? Like, it's this very surreal realization when you reach adulthood and you're like, holy shit, what do I do now, sort of thing. And then I found access, and access is really the thing that has shown me you can have your reality with everything. And now I'm never satisfied. I wake up every day and it's like, I have an amazing home, I have all of these amazing things in my life, and I love and adore everything about my life, and it's still not enough. It's still every day waking up and asking to be more of me, to be more in this world, and to have more of the things that I love. So
Wow.
yeah.
I'm just curious, because whenever I have these conversations, I'm always curious, how did you find access? I mean, everybody seems to have this little access story where they were on this journey and they were asking questions, and then they managed to find themselves, oh, this is what I've been looking for.
Yeah, well, I wholly and solely blame my brother, Brandon Watt. So I know you've had him on this show before, and maybe a lot of you guys out there know who he is. He facilitates some access classes, and he has an access business of his own, and he does COPs and relationship done different classes. And he's my brother as well. He's my big brother. And I was living in Sydney at the time in my early 20s, and I knew my brother was going through a bad time. He'd separated from the mother of his son, and he'd moved back in with our mum and sort of living in this small room in my mum's house with his son. And just at that point in his life where he was over it, he was ready to give up and call it quits. And he found an ad in the paper for the access bars, and called this girl up, got his bars run, and it changed for him. It was one of those really like prolific changes in his world that was very instant and very profound. And I just remember mum calling me one day and she's like, call your brother. And I'm like, why? What's going on? She's like, just call him. He's found this thing and he's happy. And I was like, oh, okay, well, that sounds interesting. So I rang him, and he's like, because, you know, my brother, I love him, and he's like a man of few words in most situations. So he's like, look, just go to this website, accessconsciousness.com, go to the bars. There's a page of bars practitioners, and just go and get your bars run, and then call me after and we'll talk about it. So being a good little sister, I did as I was told, and I went onto the Access website. And actually the first person who ever ran my bars was Shannon O'Hara, which is Gary Douglas's, So I found her.
What?
Yeah.
How did that happen? You weren't living in Australia. Oh, no, wait.
She lived in Sydney. Yeah, she was living in Surrey Hills in Sydney, and I saw her on there, and she was available for bar sessions, and I pinged her and went to her house, and she ran my bars. So that was really my intro to access. And from there,
you're such a show off.
I know, right? I'm like, well, if you're going to do something, you might as well do it, you know, with a bang. Why not?
Daughter, by the way, people, in case you're not catching where I'm going. It's like, she's like, I don't want to, you know, whatever. So Gary, we mentioned, is the founder.
He's kind of a big deal, basically.
Shannon O'Hara just happens to be a daughter that you just happen to, whatever, because she married. I don't know if she was married yet, but she moved to Australia from California, I guess.
No, this was long before she ever met Max. This was 10 years ago. So yeah, this was very early Shannon days as well. So
learning things. All right, please continue.
Yeah, well, that was really it. So I did the bars, and I did a bars class and really dived in deep into access. I think I did my first 7-day event, which is one of the higher classes with quite a lot of prerequisites to attend. I flew to Costa Rica and just really took that deep dive in. And then, you know what, I actually moved away from it for a few years, and not ever like you can move away from consciousness or from access, but I wasn't doing a lot of classes. I was just sort of getting my bars run every now and again. And it was that same thing, like, you know, you get a taste of it and you're like, okay, I've got these tools. I'm fine now. I can handle this myself. And I went back off into the world being a 20-something-year-old and thinking, you know, everything basically. And then, sorry, that noise is my dog.
You found it at 20-something. Like,
yeah, I know, right?
I wasn't around when I was in 20-something. But anyway, please continue.
Yeah. And so I kind of just went off and did my own thing. But all the while, it's like, you know, the dandelion is kind of one of the images of access, like the picture of the dandelion being blown and the seeds going everywhere. And if I was going to describe what access did to me, it was like one of those dandelion seeds planted in my brain. And no matter where I went or what I was choosing, it was always there. And it was like it was just sort of sitting there waiting. And I chose different things. I chose relationships, and I chose to do, you know, some things in my life that probably weren't my best choice, but I was like, you know, young and dumb as you do. And then it just got bigger and bigger in my world. And I was like, God, I find myself doing the same things over and over again, but with a slightly different flavor. I'm like, what can I do to change this? And it was access. So I was like, that's it. I'm going to go and do some more classes. And then I started an internship actually that I found online with two facilitators here in Australia, Lauren Marie and Rebecca Holtz, and then just dived back into my journey. And here we are. Like, that was 6 years ago, I think. So, yeah.
You know, it's interesting listening to your story, because I mean, I had no idea that your brother brought you in, or I didn't know how the two of you, I mean, I knew you were related, but I didn't know how you both managed to show up in access. And for me, it was like 2003 is when I first got introduced, but I didn't know what it was. The clearing statement was like 2.5 pages long.
Yeah.
I was sitting in, you know, friend's living room, and Gary's channeling and Dana's just another like us, you know,
Yeah.
And I thought, this is kind of interesting. This is really weird. And at the time I was following a guru, and they were telling me, oh yeah, that's a cult. You don't want to get involved in that. But I remembered how much the clearing statement, which by the way, you guys, the clearing statement, if you want to know more about what I'm talking about, just go to www.theclearingstatement.com. And then Dr. Dane here, who's the co-founder of Access, he explains it brilliantly. So for those of you that maybe don't know what the heck I'm talking about, but I remembered that after what had happened to me in India, and I was trying to put the pieces back together in my life, I was going, where is that freaking, there was this clearing statement that changed so much for me, you know, and I'd had my bars run several times. I was trading with a woman. I didn't know how to run bars. I channeled at the time. So we would trade sessions. And all I know is that she put her hands on my head and I would pass the fuck out. It was like, lights out. Where did I go? And I would wake up like an hour and a half later and go, you just got started. And I'd look at my watch and go, damn, girl, you just knocked me out, you know, but things got easier for me. And so that piece I took away, and the clearing statement, and then she moved away. And then 2011, so that was 2003, 2008 is when I got shot in India, which, okay, if you guys just Google my name and you'll have the rest of the story. And I was like, okay, I'm healing, all this stuff's going on. I'd like to find that clearing statement. And as ADD, ADHD that I am, I had made a folder for it and found it in my filing cabinet. And it was called the clearing statement. I went, okay. So then I got online, because by that time, by 2011, the intranets had happened. And I managed to find a bars and level 1 and 2, which is what it was before it was foundation, 40 minutes down the road. And that's how I got started. So like you, I kind of took a hiatus for a while, because I thought, oh, well, all I need to do is this clearing statement and I'll get my bars run. And then she moved and I kind of forgot about it. But what was it that actually, because for me, you know, I had that incident and then I was like, where is that thing? I want to find it. What was it for you to actually bring you back? Because here's the thing, you know, you guys, you get it when you get it. And sometimes you get a little taste and then you pull back and it's like, wait a minute, that thing kind of worked for me. So what was it for you that sort of brought you back?
It was a constant thing, really. It wasn't sort of one kind of light bulb moment where I was like, I've always created a pretty epic life. Like when I look back at my life and all of the things, I mean, I had a great job. I worked with animals. Before I started with Access, I actually worked in animal welfare, and I worked with the RSPCA here in Australia. And I worked for 12 years, I think, with domestic animals here in Australia in varying ways. I've worked in dog training and managing some big facilities here in Australia. So it wasn't like I was ever at a point where I was like, my life sucks, I'm over this. It was just always a place of knowing there was more available. And always, you know, like I said, I still wake up now with that same feeling of dissatisfaction, but not making it a bad thing, not being like, you know, I actually use my, I think Dane here once called it the dissatisfied dreamer. Like that's really how I see myself. I'm this person that has these huge dreams and I'm never satisfied until I get them. And then when I get them, I want more and more. So I've always been that way. And I think I would wake up every day and look at my life. And it was really asking questions before I even knew I was asking questions. And the main question I've always had is like, what else is possible and what else is truly available here? And every day and every, like, walking through the day, doing my job, living my life, having, you know, me, it was like, oh, this one thing that actually matches what I know is possible is access. So once I'd done that bars and some classes and then moved away, everything that I knew I was asking for would circle me back around to that energy of access. And so it was really just this, like I said, the dandelion seed was planted and it was like just this little tap, 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 tap continually on my awareness, on my head, on my something, where it was like, hey, if you want greater in this world, there's actually something here that you can choose and you can use to create the things that you want to create in your world. And I just knew somewhere on some level, I knew access was right for me. Like it was what I was looking for. So
I love it. You know, it's interesting because, you know, I pulled away from all of it, but once I took those 2 classes, I immediately had to take COP and I had to take Gary and it was a live stream thing. And then I discovered the 3-day body class and then I had to take the advanced and I was like all about body processes. And that was right when Dane was just beginning ESC and ESB and all the things.
yeah.
It's like, okay, I'm going to learn all the processes because by golly, you guys, yeah, don't Google any of this or go to any YouTubes because there's a lot of stuff there for free that you can look up
Yeah.
about these amazing things, you
Yeah.
know, SOPs and all of that. That's when I really discovered the magic of who we truly be when we choose to acknowledge it.
Yep.
And it has an ended sense, you know, and
Exactly.
that's kind of how I got my happy on, you know, which is what created this podcast. Oh, you know, I didn't get my props ready. Hold on a second.
Okay.
So this little book is the reason why this podcast exists.
Yay.
Speaks 2 other languages and is getting translated into Russian now, right? And what happened was people were, I'm kind of coined, and this is weird, Sarah, people call me the happy lady.
Cool.
Even before I actually kind of knew, you can be called a lot worse things, right?
Exactly.
But it was this thing where I'd kind of always been sort of a kooky, nutty person. And, you know, and I always make the joke, well, it's because I'm so immature, blah, blah, blah. I get along with my nieces and nephews and their children more than my siblings. You know, I'm like an 8-year-old in a very mature, you know, body, whatever you want to call that. And so people would say, how can you be so happy? You get shot by terrorists, you lose everything, your marriage ends, you have to close your business, blah, 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 blah. And for me, it was like, well, that's a really stupid question. I mean, all that stuff happened. I knew I had to get busy to heal and the things, whatever. And it wasn't until I really dove into Access that I realized that even that was a mask. And it wasn't until I was willing to be vulnerable and ask all these questions. Okay, am I truly happy or am I creating this facade? What am I being here? You know? And then, you know, Dane came out with, and I believe this was around 2011, 2012, his book, Being You, Changing the World. For those of you that are going to be seeing this on YouTube, it looks like this, and he's got it on audio also. And now he's got a new one called Body Whispering. But anyway, it's a lot of real estate, but worth it. And I was like, oh my goddess, there's these amazing tools. And I started using the tools. And so 10 years, on the 10-year anniversary, I very close to that. I am at a CF in Costa Rica, and I'm in the splash zone. You have Gary and Dane. doing the class, and I'm texting Gary. I said, what would it take for me to create an Access 101 book that could actually bring people in a way where they could understand Access without all this access speak, for people that are searching, like the people, I'm sure, Sarah, you've had people say to you, what is this access stuff you do? And you want to dialogue with them about it. And they're like, she's in a cult or, or something. And so he just said, choose, bitch. And one day the book whispered to me and I wrote it in 1 week. And, that book made me realize that I'd actually chosen my happiness because of the tools,
Awesome.
because it is
Just a choice.
That's right. It is just a choice. So, was there a moment where you saw yourself choosing your happiness? Or do you remember something?
Well, yeah. And I mean, it's rerunning, it's every day. Like, it's so funny how, for me personally, in this journey of me, like this journey of discovering more of me, discovering more of my difference, of who I am and what I can contribute to this world. It's literally every day. And, looking at how or where or why or what I do to get my happy on, like a lot of the time it's either getting out in nature, like being outdoors, preferably coupled with moving my body, like moving my body, something that also just invigorates all of the molecules in my world. But the other thing is listening to Access classes and hearing what the facilitators of Access talk about and just peeling away the layers. Like, it's so funny, like, I don't have a life that I book holiday time. Like, I'm not like, in 2 weeks or my 4 weeks annual leave this year, I'm going to, like, basically every day of my life is a day to find my happy and to get my happy on. Like, it's really this everyday thing, and looking at, like I was talking about from the beginning, how to have more and more of that in everyday life. And I remember Dane was on a class one day. It was actually Simone facilitating a Joy of Business CF training, and he came on and he was talking about, because, you get caught up in wanting to create a difference in the world, right? Like, so many of us being seekers, being these people looking for a different reality, for a purpose in this world. I know myself, I'd wake up and be like, what am I actually... Like, I haven't painted a Picasso or a Rembrandt. I haven't, orchestrated a symphony. I haven't cured disease. Like, I look at it and I'm like, these are the people we think are the ones that change the world. And of course they do. There's so many amazing people that have changed the world. But Jane was started to talk about, okay, what if you woke up every day and looked at, how can I create a life that is a gift to this world? And I was like, because that's got like, if I ask that question to myself, how can I create a life that is a gift to this world? How can I create that? There's no expectation, there's no rules, there's no planning, there's nothing. It's like, it could be anything. Like, you show up and be more of you, and that's a gift to the world. And I think my happy is definitely always steering myself towards being more of me, and not really even knowing what that is in this moment until I ask and find it and discover it again. Yeah.
Isn't that amazing? It's like, because, come on, you guys listening, really and truly, when you get to be all of you,
yeah,
isn't that the most joyful space to be in? And when I say space,
it is.
Step into that energy of it.
Yeah.
When, it's like the people that I'm not going to say they get you. All right. That's a fallacy. I'm just going to say the people that receive you, regardless if you're cranky pants or you're doing a happy dance, it doesn't really matter. It's like, they accept you warts and all, and you do too.
Yeah.
That space of, oh my gosh, sometimes I'm a superior asshole, and sometimes, I can embrace the planet and all the people, and sometimes I hate them all, or whatever it is. But you being you, fully and completely without any apology. And what if that actually was what this world required? And that's what I sister, I'm feeling you right now.
Yeah, yeah. And it's also like when you have that with you, it's so much easier to have it with everyone else. But when you don't have it with you, that's when you're constantly running up against everyone else's stuff, because you're trying to figure it out and you're trying to either align and agree with people or resist and react. But when you have that space with you, and like you said, stepping into the space of who you truly be and accepting yourself, warts and all, and knowing that whatever you choose is only good for 10 seconds and you can just choose again. When you get that with you, you start looking around at everyone and realizing that's the choice that we all have. And that's what we all have available. And that's where you start to create that real, that real contribution energy, because no one's running up against each other. It's just this constant slipstream and dance of possibilities, really. And yeah.
No, I totally get it. It's like I was talking to my mother, Celeste, who moved in with me last November during COVID 2020, the year I thought I would be traveling to all these different countries, and traveled to one. I told her, I said, when I'm in that space of facilitation and I don't plan anything, I don't know where it's going to go, because I know the class is going to create. So like I'm an RDD facilitator recently. I am a Right Voice for You facilitator. I have a specialty class. I have, foundation, which I love, which when we went into lockdown, I taught every single month. I've got one starting in 2 days. And it's like when I'm in that space, walls and barriers down, expanding out and receiving everyone in the class. And the cool thing about COVID is you could have somebody from Belgium and London and India and Italy and, all over the world taking the class at the same time, this diversity. And what gets created in that space when you're just you.
Yep.
And you have that knowing. I mean, I had no idea I had that muscle, and it's been explosive. I mean, that's what the gift of COVID has been to me, if I can actually say that out loud. It's like when I talk about getting shot in India, a lot of people are like, oh, that must have been terrible. I said, well, you know what? In those moments, there was a lot going on, shock and the things, but those terrorists did me a favor. I mean, in a way, it was like I had these incredible tools that I knew were incredible.
Yep.
But then I really had to use them, and I had my back, and the universe had my back, and all the things worked. Maybe that's why people coined me as the happy lady. And then it's the same way with these classes. It's kind of, we got thrown into all of a sudden the Brady Bunch, all the squares. And it hasn't sucked, it's actually, if nothing else, it's been delightful. I mean, you and I were just on a call with Simone Millicis for, what's love got, hold on, where's my prop? What's love got to do with it? What's love? Anyway, it was a 90-minute call. Amazing. We don't know what's going to show up. We're all in little boxes. And it's kind of been incredible, because when you sort of just go with who you be, how joyful is that? And, that's what we're inviting you guys to, is this space of allowance of yourself, honor, trust, allowance, vulnerability, and gratitude of who you truly be. And when you can actually have that with you, what it creates in your world, believable. What do we say next?
Well, it's just, I would just say, I talking about getting your happy on and it all tying back into having more of you just makes me really happy, because all of our lives we're fed formulas and answers on how to achieve happiness, how to achieve this, how to achieve that. But when you put it back to this place of having more of you will always give you more of everything and everyone, and definitely more happiness. It just becomes for me a discovery, a journey and a discovery. And it doesn't have a start. It doesn't have an end. It's like this meandering path that you're following and that you're discovering and that you're choosing. And I just think access and the tools and what we have available is truly phenomenal. So I would say just dive in and check it out. And if you're already dived in and you're already checking it out, check out more and keep going, keep choosing.
Absolutely. Very well put. Okay, so if you were going to share your favorite tool of access, I mean, I have like a million favorite tools, but is there one that you would want to share with our listeners? Something that really speaks to you?
Well, I think, Rude Running, it's so interesting because I do look at this a lot, and it's really the tool of whatever's in the moment. But the thing I would say is question. And I know, so the mantra, quote unquote, of access is empowering people to know that they know. Mm-hmm. And it's taken me, like, even now to really understand what question really is. Like, truly, you know, being on this planet in this body for 39 years, your whole life you talk, question is there to find an answer, or you ask a question to get someone to align and agree with your point of view, or to disagree with your point of view, so you have something to go off, like you have somewhere to go. But true question, point, right? Yeah,
or like a reference point. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Reference point. Exactly. And true question is what I'm discovering is the most powerful tool that I've found. And it kind of is what access is all about. It's about questions. So, and what I would say is, if you're new to this, or even if you're not, like me, I've been doing it for 10 years and I'm like, oh, what, you know, with questions, pick a few questions that you know you can remember. And when something comes up in your world and it's twisted or funky, or you don't know where to go from here, have a couple of questions you can ask. And the 4 that Gary recommends that are so good to just have ready to go is, what is this? What can I do with it? Can I change it? How do I change it? And those 4 questions, if something's up in your world, like, you know, your loved one has a problem going on, or someone's coming at you about something, to even ask 2 of them, what is this and what can I do with it? And it's not about then going, oh, well, it's this and this is what I need to do. It's really there to just get you out of your head and trying to solve things and open up the space that question opens up. And another great one is, what's right about this that I'm not getting, and what's right about me that I'm not getting. And they're also 2 very easy to remember questions that you can pretty much use in any situation. But I would say my favorite tool of access is question, and really playing with what question truly is to change absolutely anything. Yeah.
I love that. And I totally get it. I used to have those 4 questions on Post-it notes.
Yeah, that's a great way to do this too. Post-it notes are the best for this sort of stuff as well. And your phone, set little reminders, and yeah.
For reals, y'all. I mean, because I am a self-confessed head tripper. I would always have these conversations in my head about how things should go, and where is the question in that? So yeah, I totally love that tool, and I'm so glad you brought it up, because really and truly, you guys, when you live in the question, you're opening up all these doors of possibilities.
Yep.
But when you have structure of how it's supposed to happen, where is the question? Form and structure is going to always put you in this finite space, where if you ask questions, all these infinite possibilities open up for you. So that's beautiful. I love it. I love it. I think I could talk to you forever, and we might have to do this podcast another time.
Yeah.
You know, if you're willing to come back and play with me again.
Definitely.
Do you have any classes coming up you want to share with our peeps, or, you know?
I've got a couple of really cool things in the works, actually. So I think, you know, access is so cool because there's really tools and processes and things that you can use to change any aspect of your life, which is the other thing I really love. And as a facilitator, for me, it's been this journey for myself as well, because I'm like, well, what do I really want to talk about in the world? Like, what message and where do I want to? So at the moment, I'm playing a lot with bodies and body image, and having this really cool and fun and expansive connection with your body. So I do have some cool things coming up. They're not quite ready yet, but they will be very soon. And I would say I've got a website, sarahwatt.com.au, because I'm in Australia, and a Facebook page and Instagram. So what I would say is, like, if it's fun for you, find me on the web, on the www, which is how we all connect these days, because, and yeah, keep an eye on what I've got coming up. I'll have a foundation class soon, and then I'm doing some stuff about busting the myths of body image and So yeah, I love playing with bodies and I just love connecting with people as well. So feel free to drop me a line or say hello and yeah.
I love it. That was the next thing I was going to ask is where could they find you? So it's Sarah. She's
Correct.
one of those that actually has the H on the end.
I have an eight.
WATT.
Yes.
And and you talk about body image, and oh my gosh, you guys, she's got a rock hard body. I mean, I was a bodybuilder, so I had lots of points of view about
Yeah.
bodies.
Yeah, I did too.
Well, you know what? For those of you that can actually see this on YouTube, that just, don't judge me about the hair. I don't care. But
It's great hair. I mean, I was an 80s child. My mum loved the 80s. She basically had a fro that was like bigger than that, I think even. That's true 80s hair.
So for those of you that are listening on Spotify and Apple Podcast, I'm showing a picture of me in a very tiny purple bikini when I was 18 years old with hair like about 4 to 5 inches high off the top of my head. And, the joke is, the higher the hair, the closer to God. So
exactly.
I don't know if that was my point of view then, but that's something we do share as far as the body thing. You know what? Before we go, I do have a question about that because I had lots of points of view about bodies. I was a bodybuilder, marathon runner. I've run 10 marathons, over 300 half marathons, weightlifting, all the things. And it wasn't until, and that was when I was modeling. And so it wasn't until later when I finally said, body, what do you want to do? And it was like Pilates.
Yep. Cool.
And I do get on my treadmill, but I do like this really fast walking thing, which is different muscles now.
Yeah.
But because you're talking about body image in these classes that are coming up, is there anything that you would want to impart about that? I mean, because I know that you're very, I don't want to say body conscious. That's not the words I want to use. I'm not sure exactly where I want to go with it. I just know that you're a person that likes to move and talks to her body. Can you just leave us with a little bit of something about that before we go?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I remember I heard Gary Douglas once say, what if you found out that everything you were ever told was actually a lie, or everything you ever thought was true was actually a lie? And he didn't specifically say it about bodies. It was actually about absolutely everything. And, recently I was like, holy shit. Like when you look at bodies and everything that I knew and that I was told and that I thought was correct about bodies, I've now figured out is actually not true and it's a lie. And from that space, what I've found is we actually have these amazing things that we can create pretty much anything we want to with, if we're willing to ask questions and listen and choose not what we've been told is true, but what we actually know is true, and be willing to fuck things up too. I mean, like you, I went through stages of working my body so hard, 2+ hours in the gym every day, 6 days a week, never being satisfied, and seeing photos of myself now and just, I was in a bar once and went to the toilet and a lady came up to my friend and said, is she in the Olympics? Like I'd created this body that was like, I was like the Amazonian woman of like whatever, but still all that time I remember judging that I wasn't good enough. So it's like, yeah, what I would say is ask yourself that question. Like, what have I bought as real about my body that is actually not real? And if it wasn't real, what do I truly know that I can create with my body that's different to what anyone, and every single body is so different.
Yeah.
So what if there was information out there that you could find that was relevant to you? But go and look for what's relevant to you, not what's worked and is what is relevant for other people. Because that's the other thing I've done is I've followed that many friggin' diets and counting this and weighing that and doing this and eating at this time and not eating at that time. And it's like, it's funny because it will work for a little while and then it stops working, right? And I'm like, how do these people do this for like a year, 10 years, 20 years? Like, what if the information is available for your body and it's just a matter of figuring out what parts of it are actually true for you? So,
when you say that, it makes me think of another tool of, your point of view creates your reality. Your reality does not create your point of view. And I can remember working out with a trainer when I trained for the Boston Marathon, which was my bucket list marathon. I had been training for when I got hurt. And then I decided I had to run it even if I couldn't do the time I would normally do. I was that person that I was what they called an amateur professional athlete, meaning
Yep.
for my age, I could run pretty fast. And so I'd make the numbers look good for the marathon. So that's how I got to do all these marathons and half marathons. They would be like, we're going to give you shoes and we'll give you the flight and blah, blah, blah. And you can run it and make us look good or whatever. And so here I was training for it when everything went down. And then I decided I had to do it. Because the Boston is kind of one of those things, if you're into running, whatever. I had lots of fixed points of view about saying I'd run the Boston. So Adidas gave me a hard luck pass to run it. And my trainer's trying to train me. And I couldn't do all the things that I did
Yeah.
before. I bought an elliptical to learn how to walk again, so
Yeah.
it was the doctor said I would never walk again. And yet here I was training for a marathon. And it was very strange. My body didn't want pasta the night before. It wanted eggs. It was like all these things because I had some of the tools of access then. And I was like, what's going to create greater here for me? So it was me communing, having this
Cool.
relationship with my body and going, what's going to work for you?
Cool.
I went to the spaghetti thing and I was like, I can't eat any of this. My body is like going, don't do it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's my takeaway from all of
Definitely.
that. But I love it. And this has been an amazing, amazing conversation. I definitely want to have you back on as a guest again if you're willing to
Let's
go
do
there.
it. For sure. Would
So
love to.
you guys, and so if you liked this conversation, you like this podcast, please click the like button beneath. I'll have all the information so you can find the lovely Sarah Watt.
Thank
And
you.
looking forward to seeing more of what you're going to create in the world. Thank you again for being my podcast guest. And yeah, so until next time, you guys, ciao, ciao for now.